world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, progressives, and welcome to the June 4th, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our number. You can find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and, of course, email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Follow me on all the socials under Choose Views, and catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. And there, of course, you can get Choose Views featured interviews. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. It's the Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And also in the evenings, make sure to check out the Politics Bar, the Matt McNeil Show, and the Gayling Show. Those are our broadcasts. You know how we roll here. So do your part and tune in. And when you're tuning in and you say, okay, now I want to read something really cool, that's when you make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Just turn down that road and go, okay, now I got to go here. I've been listening. Now I got to go to Heartland Signal because they've got these great articles over there. And, those are the things you get to do with Heartland. What do we have here that's catching everybody's attention? The Minnesota GOP convention chair wishes someone pushed back on Derek Chauvin's moment of silence. You think? Yeah, a moment of silence for what is it about the GOP that likes to, give honor to people that are convicted of crimes? It's the J6ers getting money, and we're going to talk about that. That we know that the fund got swatted down. But what is it? I mean, Derek Chauvin is convicted by a jury of his peers. Why would the GOP even touch that third rail? Why even go there? What do you gain from that? You're already in the minority for the most part in the state. So now you're going to go and tick off people who in the majority saw that this was murder and he was convicted by a jury of his peers. A moment of silence? Really? In any event, come on, people, use your brain. And that's not necessarily a political statement, a partisan statement. It's just, the guy got convicted of murder, so let that go. Leave that alone. You don't need to have a moment of silence. And that politician there is, the convention chair, I should say, is correct in that assessment. But make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. We've got, as always, great articles there for you guys to check out. And that's just one of the many that you can review, you can like, and you can share. On today's show, we have lots of people that we're going to be talking with. Tamar Jacoby will be with us in the 6:30 hour, and you guys may recall Tamar's been with us in the past. She is one of the leading voices, experts, minds on Ukraine. And what's happening with the war in Ukraine. And we haven't talked about that in a while, so it'll be good to have a conversation with her and what she's experiencing, essentially live and on the ground. So we'll talking with her shortly. Barb McQuade, one of the team members of Sisters-in-Law, has a new book out, The Fix, and she's going to be with us in the 7 o'clock hour. Looking forward to talking with Barb about her book and about some of the recent things that have taken place legally and what the administration has done or not done that gets right up against the line of legality. So Barb will be with us at 7. And then Christian Menefee, who is the Texas member of Congress that you guys may not remember this, but he actually got seated as a congressman back in, I think it was February, beginning of the early part of the year. But then because of the redistricting and the gerrymandering in Texas, he and Representative Congressman Al Green essentially had to compete against each other with the narrowing of the seats, or the reduction, I should say, of the seats in Texas. And Congressman Menefee ended up winning that seat. So that pitted two black congressional leaders against each other, which was the goal in terms of reducing seats, i.e. black representation in the country, like what just happened in Alabama, which I'm going to try to talk a little bit more about tomorrow. But that being said, we'll be talking with Representative Menefee in the 7:30 hour. If you guys have questions for any of our guests, we may not get you on. We'll try, but most importantly, call us, and we will get the questions. Mike will grab it, and we'll be able to try to ask a question during that period of time. So don't hesitate to call, even if we can't get you on. That's the beauty of having the team that we have here. They can grab your question, get it to me, and I can at least read it on the air and talk about it if we can't get you on. So you guys can always feel comfortable in knowing that our team here is here to take care of you in that space. Today's question, I'm going to give you the question, and I'm going to talk about where I am with this. And that's very simply, where do you guys sit when it comes to Scott Pelley of CBS being fired and its impact on media at large? Okay. Where do you guys sit when it comes to Scott Pelley of CBS being fired by Barry Weiss and its impact on the media at large? That's our question for the day. And I'm going to take a couple minutes before we go to the break to talk about where I kind of stand on this. We've known for a while, and this was in the first Trump administration, that he's wanted to attack the media. He's always gone down this path of fake news and all this other garbage. But Fox News is okay. Everybody else is fake news. If they don't kiss his behind, then everybody else is fake news. And the thing that's happened, and we've watched it slowly happen, is that the media, the corporate media, has bent a knee particularly during this term. And we can go back to 16's campaign, and we saw that too much of the mainstream media, I was referring to it as that then. Now I'm referring to it as corporate media, but too much of the mainstream / corporate media bent the knee and essentially gave what some people added up to be somewhere in the range of $5 billion of free coverage, i.e. messaging for Donald Trump during his first run for president. That's an extraordinary amount of money in terms of the equal value, I should say, we're trying to say, of the coverage that he got. And so even Les Moonves says it's not necessarily good for the country, but it's good for our ratings. That's close to what he said. It's not exactly, but he made excuses, if you will. And now we fast forward to where we are, and we've seen the consolidation, and I've talked about this before, of companies in the media space. And at the top of the heap, and consolidation of messaging, not just in terms of our, quote, corporate media or our big three, NBC, CBS, and ABC. We've seen all that they're doing to control the people that are there, control the message, control the people in the society. That's the game plan. You can go back to, during the time of Hitler's regime. You can look at any of the dictators across the globe over time. That's always been one of the parts of the playbook. And it's on steroids now. The Ellison family, Larry and his son David, their primary goal is to take over and to control Disney because they want to be able to have the power to dictate what's produced in Hollywood. There's no mincing words there. That's what they want to do. They're not doing it for the benefit of the people, the audience, or the people that work for the companies. And CBS is in that same category with Paramount. That deal is all about controlling the message. And so Barry Weiss is kind of gotten caught in a situation where either she lied or she's holding back some of the truth. And Scott Pelley wasn't having it. He said no. And me having the honor and the blessing to do this show, it's about telling you the truth, or telling you it's about telling you the truth and making sure that if we make a mistake that we own up to it and we go forward. We're going to have our preferences and our biases for a lot of different things, but we still have to do it from a perspective where we're not being infused with things that don't make sense. And from what I've read, and I read a lot yesterday, that's what they tried to do to him, and they've been trying to do at CBS, is get the folks that are on, particularly CBS 60 Minutes, to infuse things that weren't necessarily completely accurate, maybe not a lie, but they bent the story in a direction that these experienced journalists did not want to do. And so the CBS Evening News has been having some issues, but 60 Minutes has been a stalwart for all of us. Great stories and all the rest. And they've just been picking away. And Scott Pelley essentially got fired because he stood up to management, to the C-suite, and said, no, I'm not going to do certain things. And you're, meaning Barry Weiss, you're murdering this iconic news institution. I'm standing with Scott Pelley because I've watched his work for years, and he's always been on point. Always been on point. I think that we have to do the same thing. And in some cases, we may be late to the party, but that doesn't mean we can't show up and still have an impact on what's going on with how the C-suite, and I've been saying this for a long time, is dictating what is happening when it comes to the output. And at no time has it been more prevalent than right now with what Barry Weiss is doing with CBS. No question. You can just go back a year, go back to when she was put in this role, and you can see they're just slashing and burning. And it's because they want to control the message. They want to continue to bend the knee or lay over the knees of Donald Trump when it comes to the message. That's their goal. It's not about profit. It's not about bringing a better message out to people. So I'm standing with Scott Pelley in this space. And I don't disagree with some people that are saying that maybe we should boycott CBS for how they've handled this, what they've done and how they've handled it. Don't know, but I don't disagree with some of the people that have put that out there in the last 24 to 48 hours. So I just wanted to start off by saying that, but I want to get your opinion. Where do you guys sit when it comes to Scott Pelley of CBS being fired and its impact on media at large? Let's talk about it. We're going to take a quick break right now, though. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
One in 10 people age 50 and older in the U.S. have early age-related macular degeneration.
Because macular degeneration often has no early symptoms, many don't know they have it until irreversible vision loss has already occurred. Well, when I first found out that I had macular degeneration, it was really scary. I mean, my eyes are my living.
What's most important for me to see? My family, my loved ones, my pickleball game. Everything I do is dependent upon my vision.
Being able to see, be able to spend time with my children, be able to travel is extremely important. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have my vision. Don't miss life's most beautiful moments.
Schedule a comprehensive eye exam to protect your sight.
Macular Degeneration Research, a Bright Focus Foundation program, offers free resources and tips for healthy vision.
Go to stopamd.org to learn more.
I thought it was just stress. But then it felt like I was stuck in a state of panic, obsessed with worry that something bad would happen if I didn't complete endless rituals. I couldn't solve this on my own. So I made the call. I found a doctor who diagnosed me with OCD. Now I'm able to live more in the present.
Mental health care works when you make the call. Visit mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
Ever tried balancing a dozen eggs in one hand while hopping on one foot? Or maybe juggling cats while riding the unicycle? Sounds ridiculous, right? But guess what? That's exactly what texting while driving is like. Your human brain only has the capacity to focus on one thing at a time. So when you're behind the wheel, give driving your undivided attention.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Mic's on, truth's out. This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Great to be with you this morning. We have a couple of Choose Views news items that we'll bring to you real quickly on this June 4th, 2026. Open jobs has hit an almost 2-year high, which is a sign of resilience. Open positions hit almost this high in April, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, defying analyst expectations. Available jobs in April jumped to 7.62 million from 6.89 million in March. While Bloomberg surveys and economists are expecting openings to plateau, estimating the median number could be 6.87. The numbers suggest resilience and stability in the labor market, and it complicates the Federal Reserve's calculus on cutting interest rates. So there you go. Still, Bloomberg knows small business optimism is sliding because so many of them have been impacted by an antsy economy and how tariffs have been impacting their business decisions. Amazon moves up its Prime Day lock in a stress is a way to de-stress consumers. Prime Day is coming early. Amazon will kick off its savings bonanza on June 23rd, offering new discounts every day through June 26th. The e-commerce giant moved up the event to avoid an overlap with major July occasions like the height of the FIFA World Cup and the 250th anniversary and Independence Day. The U.S. lowered some tariffs on heavy equipment to aid the industry. By lowering the tariffs on heavy equipment like bulldozers and forklifts, is designed to be a boost to farming, construction, and manufacturing industries, according to the White House. Tariffs on HVAC systems and other mobile industrial products like agricultural equipment would drop to 15% from 25%, according to most recent reports. And here's an interesting story that I made a parallel from. Steph Curry, NBA basketball player. For those of you who are not into basketball, Steph Curry is one of the premier guards in the National Basketball Association, played for the Golden State Warriors. He signed a deal with China's Li Ning sneaker contract. It's an endorsement deal with the sportswear brand. And recently, citing sources that, those who follow this, Steph has left Under Armour, which he's been with for almost 13 years. So why is this important? Many times athletes make decisions. They make a ton of money. We know this. They've got a tremendous amount of wealth. But one of the things that Steph Curry did, and when I sit back and look at this, is he made a decision that, it was about building his brand, but it was also about making sure that he was reaching the customers and the consumers that he really wanted to reach. By not going with certain companies, he went with the company that he felt was better for his brand, but also had a better understanding of the consumer. So as I look at this, in my observation, consumers no longer buy products because a company tells them to. They buy products because they trust the people behind them. That's why challenger brands in sports and in other venues, they take on these athletes or they take on these celebrities with the goal being to build the brand, but the brand has to represent what the people really want. Steph understood this, and he's gotten ahead of that conversation. The next generation of sports business icons, I believe, won't be remembered for the sponsorships deals that they sign. They'll be remembered for the companies that they help build. The idea is that community drives the conversation. Consumers matter. Just like in politics, it's the voter, it's the individual that should matter. So the Democratic Party can take a lesson from this. The Democratic Party or the team needs to stay true to the voter, stay true to the consumer, stay true to the brand. And in this case, our brand is about helping people. Our brand is about making sure we deliver to the individuals that support us. So kudos for Steph for signing a deal that's right for him, but also one that represents what he believes in the consumer. So there you go. My little assessment in terms of a sports business deal that has its impact or implications in terms of our politics right now. So a couple of quick Choose Views news items for you guys on this Thursday morning. Let's talk a little bit about something that happened politically that I think, I don't know if it was shocking, but it's certainly something that was required. And I'm not necessarily giving out any gold medals to people for this, but I am speaking to what happened. And as you guys saw, lawmakers voted 215 to 208 to withdraw the troops from using military force against Iran, absent any congressional authorization. In other words, it pushes on the War Powers Resolution. So let me break down kind of a little bit what happened. All Democrats that were present voted for the measure to effectively halt the U.S. military campaign against Iran. And Representatives Thomas Massey, a Republican of Kentucky, Warren Davison, a Republican of Ohio, Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican of Pennsylvania, and Tom Barrett, a Republican of Michigan, were the lone Republicans to buck the president and Speaker Johnson and to support the War Powers Resolution. So 4 moved over, 4 crossed the aisle, if you will. 4 did the right thing in the circumstances that we're in. And that, to me, shows the strength of not so much their commitment to doing the right thing, but to understand, going back to the point I made a moment ago about Steph Curry, they understand that this is something that impacts their customer, which are their voters, the people that they represent in their districts. Call it a political move or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, they realize that this is something that has to happen. Congress has the power to determine this in terms of us going to war and to support the War Powers Resolution. Two observations about this as I wrap up on this point. These 4 Republicans made the decision that they were going to not necessarily vote with the Democrats, but vote against what Trump and Johnson have stood in the way of. And that's a good thing. It just is. We have to, we take the wins when we get them. And I'm sure this is also Thomas Massey's way of poking Donald in the eye with regard to how he impacted his primary. But I also see something that isn't talked about and enough, because oftentimes it's easy to criticize. I'm susceptible to that. I know it. That's why I own up to it. But Speaker Jeffrey, I'm sorry, I'm speaking about the future. I'm kind of taking us down the path already. Minority Leader Jeffries kept his caucus in line. They all voted right where they should. So that has to also be discussed and recognized, is that Speaker Jeffries held the caucus together. And holding the caucus together, it did not give Republicans any room to not do the right thing. And those 4 that crossed the aisle, if you will, they should be, congratulated for that effort. This is not one of those times where we have to necessarily play partisan, but I will recognize the partisan, not the partisan, but the bipartisan connection and the win here. So we take the win. And over these next few months, when other things that come up that are important to the consumer, the voter, as we said, Republicans have got to continue to do the right thing, because I've said for the longest time, the Democrats can't change things because they don't have the numbers. This is a perfect example of they don't have the numbers, didn't have the numbers. But when Republicans woke the hell up and said, this is wrong for the country, and they did the right thing, we got stuff done. So do not undervalue the power of your vote and your phone calls, because we all know that many of these congressional leaders got phone calls from their constituents saying, we have got to find a way out of this war. And if it means that you've got to cross the aisle to vote with the Democrats, then you got to do it. Now, I'm sure those phone calls were made, and I'm sure they were received by these congressmen. So kudos to all of them who got it done to put some brakes on this lunatic that's in the White House. Let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. Oh, we can't forget our folks at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Hey, y'all. We'll be right back.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. Cancer screening tests can help keep the person you love around longer by detecting changes before cancer develops, or catch it early when it may be easier to treat. And many tests are available for free or are covered by insurance. It's time to sound like a broken record. Tell all your friends and family, I love you. Get screened. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn.
Hey, Max, you look absolutely dashing in that purple tie. Ready to harness the world?
You bet, Daisy. I'm ready as I'll ever be. And might I say, your purple tie really pops with your vest.
Thanks. I almost went with a cape, but didn't want to come across as pretentious.
Nonsense. Anyone in our line of work should rock a cape.
You might be onto something, Max.
Phew, so here we go. First day on the job. We've got this, right?
Right. Don't forget, we both graduated from Dogs Inc. with honors.
Which means I can guide my human around a busy city with ease.
And I can give my human a restful night.
I hope my human is kind and loving.
And I hope mine likes wet kisses and zoomies.
Ready to make a difference?
Born ready. Let's go.
Discover how extraordinary dogs like Daisy and Max change lives at no cost to the recipients. Visit dogsinc.org.
1 in 10 people age 50 and older in the U.S. have early age-related macular degeneration.
Because macular degeneration often has no early symptoms, many don't know they have it until irreversible vision loss has already occurred.
Don't miss life's most beautiful moments.
Schedule a comprehensive eye exam to protect your sight.
Macular Degeneration Research, a Bright Focus Foundation program, offers free resources and tips for healthy vision.
Go to stopamd.org to learn more.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT Willow Springs, is powered by ComEd. Visit ComEd.com/facility assessment to learn more about energy savings.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. And for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 68. Friday, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Partial sunshine develops, high of 84. Saturday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 85. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 64.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
Don't hit that snooze button. It's time for Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is Choose Views, and I'm Richard Chew. I have the blessing and the honor to talk to some really, really amazing people. You guys know this based on the guests that we've had on Choose Views over the last couple of years. And there are some people who really rise to the top in what they do, and they keep us informed in some of the most amazing ways and from some of the most amazing places. This morning we have with us, who hasn't been with us for a while, but I always enjoy the opportunity to talk with Tamar, Jacoby, who is the director of the New Ukraine Project. Good morning. How are you? Welcome back to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. It's great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm well.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I'm so... I'm honored when I have a chance to talk with someone that does the work that you do.
You're much too kind. You're much too kind. I put my pants on one leg at a time, like everybody else.
You mean you don't try to hold them out and jump into them and stick the landing? Come on now, Tamar. You know you try doing that every now and again. Well, listen. Right now, we know that the Congress voted 215 to 208 to kind of push back on Trump with regard to resolution of war powers, and being more specific in terms of what's going on in Iran. But not that people have forgotten, but because of the craziness that's going on in the Middle East with this war that we started, like somebody else that we're dealing with, your observations now are probably as important as ever, because there's seemingly a shift that's going on. And help us understand what you're observing and what you think is either about to happen with regard to this war in Ukraine, which, by the way, another dictator started.
Right, right. Well, let's start with Washington since you bring it up. There was a vote yesterday on Iran, but there was also a vote, and I think it was separate, on aid for Ukraine.
Yeah.
And that was a bill that had come up because 218 members said they wanted to come up. There are not too many bills like that.
Right.
And they voted for some aid. It's not gonna be any, it's not gonna drive any aid. It's more a symbolic vote, an expressive vote than more money. And the truth is, what Ukraine needs from America now, it's changed a lot since that bill was written about a year ago. Of course they need money. It's a country at war. But what they really need now are these missiles that the Patriot systems shoot that can shoot down Russian ballistic missiles.
Right.
And we don't have any more because we used them all in Iran. We used them up. And there's nothing but, every night, like Russia sends, what's a ballistic missile? It goes, instead of going like along the horizon, it goes in a parabola.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down real fast, right on you, like in seconds. And you need a special thing to shoot it. And only American Patriots can shoot it. And there are no interceptors available.
Yeah.
So, it literally means, for Kyiv, it's a very nasty situation. For me. But so what Ukraine really needs from America, even Congress can't really do at this point. So it's nice to have congressmen saying, we like you, we want to help you, maybe we can find some money for you. But really, Trump has maneuvered everything to be in such a pickle that it's hard to fix.
Well,
which I think is probably true of a lot of things, right?
It's very true, and I love the way that you've articulated that, because it speaks to something that I've said and many, many others have said other than me, and you probably have leaned into this as well, is that he just doesn't know what he's doing. And that the ripple effect of doing something when you don't know what you're doing is catastrophic. It costs people their lives. And now, to your point, and other military experts, I should say military experts and folks like you have said, when you don't plan a military action and you just act, and it's not strategic, it's giving the view of being tactical, and this war in Iran's not even tactical, it's just a cluster, then you injure something else. And I talked about this early on when the discussion around troops being moved to Iran. Where were they coming from? They were going to probably come from Asia. And they come from Asia. That leaves our back end open in terms of what China would want to do in terms of Taiwan, which could then impact our chip conversation.
He's impulsive and he's reckless. And that is not the way to run the world.
No.
What can we say? But the good news for Ukraine is that, Ukraine, the amazing thing about Ukraine, not only are they resilient, as everybody knows after watching them for 4 years, but they've built basically a military defense industry from scratch while they were at war. So they now make a lot of what they need themselves. And what they really just need is actually investment from America. Money, again, would help. Other kinds of money, loans would help. So they can make more of it. And so they are doing pretty well. So, again, it gets kind of technical, but, it used to be the drones that we all heard about were pretty short-range drones. They would fly up and they would fly maybe, a couple hundred yards, and they would shoot a Russian below. Now they have drones that can fly 150 miles, 170 miles. And what you can do with those is you can shoot like the Russian logistics and their the command centers. They have to move their command centers back, and everything gets tougher. And even more important than that, Ukraine now has drones and missiles that can fly like 1,000 miles. And so they can go all the way to Moscow and St. Petersburg. And so Ukraine is suddenly, even though it's a much smaller country, David Goliath situation, is suddenly doing really well. And, Russia's still much bigger, has much more money, has many more men, has big industry, but this guerrilla war thing is kind of working.
Yeah.
And so, it does, and suddenly Putin is under a lot of pressure. His economy is in trouble, and even his kind of other Russian elites are saying, wait a minute, maybe we can't win this. Maybe we should cut our losses. And Ukraine, he was supposed to give a big speech like today or tomorrow at a conference in St. Petersburg. And Ukraine hit the oil depot there. So the whole city was like covered in black smoke as Putin was like arriving to give a speech. I mean, it was amazing footage. And so, I mean, I don't think the war is going to end anytime soon, but and, you know, wars are roller coasters. Things go up and down, and things are still bad here, you know, missiles coming in. But it's a very good moment for Ukraine and could be the beginning of some kind of pivot point.
Yeah, you wrote this great piece that I read about could the tide be turning in Ukraine? And it seems to me that, you know, tides turn when it comes to these kinds of conflicts when the people that supported the decision maker start to say, you know what, I'm not really down with this as much as I was before. And that's what I'm reading, that the people that supported, if you will, Putin's desire to do this are now starting to say, you know, the long range investment isn't going to happen because we're burning through resources and we're not functioning as a society. I mean, those are my words, but are you seeing that?
That's exactly right. I mean, first of all, let's give a shout out to the Washington Monthly because they published the piece and they're my friends.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening. The question is, you know, in some countries that matters when the people around you say we don't like it anymore. In other countries it matters less. You know, and let's start, you know, with America. How much is Trump going to care what the House votes? You know, for a while he's not really going to care till they really have the power to push him. How much does Putin care what the people around him say? You know, probably even less. And fewer people are able to say anything, and people don't go in the streets. You know, there's no kind of public opinion to speak of. They're so cowed and so repressed. So he can go for a while, you know, just like doing what he wants, kind of. I mean, that's the nature of dictators, right? So again, it's definitely not over yet. And he is still saying ridiculous things. And he does, you know, I hate to say it, but have nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And, you know, a desperate Putin is not going to be a very nice Putin. You know, he wasn't nice when he was not desperate. And the more desperate he gets, the more dangerous he's going to get. And so, you know, it's not over. But yeah, as you say, the people around him. And it's, you know, there's different kinds of elites in Russia. I'm not a Russian expert, but I was reading this morning, you know, there's like kind of intellectuals and economists, and they've been saying for a while, like, we've had enough of this. But now, like, the hawks are starting to say, like, we're not going to win. Yeah. And we're spending blood and treasure. And, you know, look what it's done to Russia. Like, they have, you know, it's not just like sanctions and how the world sees them. Like, they have no AI, you know, industry to speak of.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are brilliant there's brilliant engineering talent in Russia, but they're not building AI because they're building weapons. And, you know, some of the weapons have AI, but it's not, you know, all the rest of the world is developing to try to, you know, get beyond the industrial economy. And Russia isn't really doing that because they're focused on the wrong things. So, you know, I don't have a lot of sympathy for them. I hope they drive themselves into the ground, but I mean, you know, they shoot at me every night. It changes your view. But, you know, it's just, it's a terrible, it's not just bad for Ukraine, it's bad for Russia.
Yeah. And we always go back to this. I think those of us that have held on to our humanity as best we can, we go back to the people in a community that are impacted by these kinds of decisions. And, you know, you and I and millions of other people across the globe can say, you know, we hate this conflict for all the right reasons to hate it, and that's because it's destroying people's lives. Be damn Putin and all the people around him. I could care less about them. If I saw Vladimir Putin walking down Michigan Avenue, folks would have to restrain me. You know, here in Chicago, you'd have to restrain me. That's the dark side of me. But the other side is my concern for my Russian brothers and sisters right here in Chicago, because we have a strong, as well as my Ukrainian brothers and sisters right here in Chicago, because we have such a diverse, strong population in both of those communities. So that's really where our you know what
of
I mean?
course, of course. And I mean, according to Ukrainian estimates, I mean, people differ a little bit on these numbers, but 1.4 million Russians have been killed or wounded in this war. I mean, that is big city. I think there's states that don't have that big a population. And not to mention, but again, the problem is that there are a couple of problems in Russia. Again, I'm not a Russian expert, but there's no press, there's no political freedom, there's no political space, and there's also a long history of sort of thinking, well, that guy at the top probably knows, and also that the greater, maybe most important, the greater glory of the country, of the empire, of whatever you want to think of it as, is more important than how I'm living. And if you think that, you are willing to live pretty miserably for the greater glory, and you're willing to sacrifice your life. I mean, Russians are the only people who brag about how many people died in World War II in their country, because suffering for the sake of this glory is sort of okay. And so, I mean, I'm not tarring all the nice, as you say, Russian brothers and sisters in Chicago, but there's a reason that Putin sort of keeps his hold, apart from his state, repression, basically.
Yeah, good point. Let's take a quick break, Tamar. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Tamar Jacoby of the New Ukraine Project, and we'll be right back.
Mr. Big-Time Capital One Bank guy.
Mom, please.
Well, look at this Capital One Cafe. I just might move in.
Or just drop by. Capital One Cafes are open 7 days a week.
I could put my spoon collection right here by the ATM, yes.
Wow, you weren't kidding, Mom.
I never kid about the spoon collection, son. Oh, hey, what's that thing you always say?
There's no fees or minimums on Capital One checking accounts.
No, the other one.
What's in your wallet?
Oh, that's my boy.
Terms apply. Visit CapitalOne.com/bankguy for details. Capital One and a member FDIC.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
There are many times I thought, I can't do this. I mean, what parent isn't worried about? What am I not doing right? What am I not doing enough? And then I realized, wait, that's being a parent.
Don't worry about being perfect. I've had around 3 other mother figures in my life, but only one of them has taught me how a mother loves.
The greatest reward for me is he makes me better every day.
I would tell a family considering adopting a teenager that teenager, whoever it is, needs you, and they need what you have to offer.
Taylor's given me hope. He's our son, and that is what he will always be.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
After my wife died, I lost myself too. I didn't feel like doing anything or seeing anyone. Then my granddaughter called to say she misses me, and I realized I had to make a change. That's when I made the call. I got referred to a psychiatrist, and she explained depression can happen to anyone. I'm learning that getting help doesn't make me weak. It makes me stronger. Mental health care works when you make the call.
See what it can do for you at mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views, where we read more than just the headline. Now here's your host, Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Choose Views, and I'm Richard Chu. We are talking with director of the New Ukraine Project, all the way from Kiev, Tamar Jacoby. Good morning again. Let me ask you this question about, we talked about money before, and talked about not just money, but resources and support for Ukraine. What do you see as the potential path forward to get the resources to them that, that are needed? Have you sat down and thought, or when the people that you talk with, what's it going to take to get us to that point where we can say, all right, we're going to deliver more to the country, if that's even possible?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's very hard to know, right? But I mean, people do say um, that that there are enough Republican votes that if they joined with Democrat votes, there would be help. Um, so if the Democrats won the midterms, and the Democrats were setting the agenda, and some of these Republicans didn't fear Trump so much. I mean, that's the problem. The problem is all the primaries in the last couple of weeks, where if you cross Trump, you're dead, your political career is over. And so as long as people are afraid to cross Trump, it's a problem. And I mean, so I think, more Democrat votes would help. But I think, I mean, the question for me, and I was at a conference this week where there were some American senators, and I asked them this and I didn't get an answer. Not that long ago, surprise, surprise, not that long ago, America authorized $60 billion for Ukraine. Not that long ago, we were talking about giving them some of our biggest, most powerful missiles, these Tomahawk cruise missiles, which are these amazing missiles. Not that long ago, there was a bill with like 82 co-sponsors in the Senate that was going to impose really tough secondary sanctions on people who traded with Russian oil. I mean, all that's inconceivable now to me. Like those numbers, that kind of weaponry, any of that. So where are we? Like, what have we come down to? If that was all on the table, as little as, let's say, a year, 18 months ago, let's put it 18 months, how much deflation have we had? And I don't know the answer to that. I mean, the bill yesterday was $8 billion, I believe, in loan. And there was some aid, but there was actually less aid than was already given, like by another bill a year ago.
Right.
So it doesn't really amount to anything. So can we go to 5 billion? Can we go to 10 billion? Like what can we get to? I just don't know. And again, I do think this sort of Trump chokehold on the party is really a problem. I mean, there are lots of Republican members who will tell you, majority of the conference are sympathetic to Ukraine, but it doesn't matter if it's the only sympathetic, in the privacy of your own home. Like that doesn't count.
I know. Like, okay. So to that point, I want to come back to something that you said that I've been thinking about for a while. And this may sound crazy, but I think there's I'll just say it. I wonder if a lot of Republicans right now in the House and in the Senate tomorrow may actually want to lose the midterms. And let me tell you why, or my thinking. Here's what I think might be going on in their minds. Right now, because they're in the majority, they have to kind of step and fetch it, to use a way old term, and some might find it offensive. But they kind of have to, stay on their knees with Trump because they have the power, and they can't. They're not doing anything. My brain went down the path a couple weeks ago. It's like maybe they don't want to win the midterms to stay in power, and the reason is because then they don't have to be responsible to him. They don't have to be beholden to him, because now what is he going to do? The Democrats have the power, so the Republicans could actually benefit themselves by not winning the midterms, having a new speaker, having a new Senate majority leader, and then falling in line with the Democrats to get what they want and play the long game and get him out. I know some people think that is crazy as hell. But when I think about this thing with Ukraine as an example, to your point that you just mentioned, I think, a lot of the behind the scenes, behind closed door stuff, maybe they want us, they're not saying it, but maybe they want it to happen. And maybe they're going to say, you know what, we'll take a pass on the midterm so we can get out of this craziness that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that, right? I'm not there, so I can't really comment. I'll let you put it on the table. I won't say anything yes or no. But I mean, there's a couple things to think about. Really two sort of next paragraphs, right? One is, Americans are tired of the war here. I mean, I hate to say it, but, they also think it's kind of stalemated. I mean, even my best friends, I used to come home to America, in the first 4 years ago, and I could go out to dinner because people wanted to hear about Ukraine.
Right.
Now even my best friends, they sort of say, how are you? My best friends who should care about my welfare, they sort of say, how are you? And I have about 5 minutes to say, I'm okay. And then they want to change the subject. So it's like Americans just think it's a war far away and nothing's going to happen and they can't really make a difference. And there's China and there's all these other things. So I'm not sure there's I mean, I really appreciate that you still care, and I appreciate the people who read my articles still care some, but they don't care, Americans don't care that much. So again, I think there's sort of limits on how far, even if there were Democrats who were running everything, how much aid they would give.
Wow.
But the other word we sort of haven't said, it still would be important. I mean, I'm not saying it's nothing. It still would be very important. And sanctions would be even tougher. Sanctions would be even more important. But and building the missiles faster.
Right.
But the other word we haven't spoken about is Europe. We haven't used the word Europe. And Europe has really stepped up and, almost replaced America in what is being provided. They can't do it forever either. But they care a lot more because they think that Putin, if Putin wins here, he's coming for them next.
Right.
I think they're probably right. So, I mean, that's from the point of, Ukrainians are thinking less and less about is America going to save me? And indeed, Europeans are thinking less and less, is
America going to step through? Yeah. I was just going to say, in terms of the next phase, if Putin were to, quote, win this war, I was looking at some of the global assessments, and there's a few monitors out there. I know you're probably much more steeped in them and adept to them. But the war, for the most part, and correct me if I'm wrong, is still closer to the more not central, but it's still closer to the borders that separate Ukraine and Russia, and the real intense fighting hasn't sort of mushroomed further to say, for example, the Poland border. Is that true, or is that, is that still holding?
That's true. But so I mean, here's like what Ukrainians say, right? This is sort of a joke, and then I'll answer the thing seriously. People say in this 3.5 years of World War II, the Russian army went from Moscow to Berlin. Like, that's a long way.
Yeah.
In the 3.5 years of this war, the first 3.5 years, Russia went from Donbass to Donbass. Like, that's like
right down the street.
Right. Really, literally down the street, a few yards.
Yeah.
Maybe, But so the point is, no, you're right. It hasn't moved across Ukraine, but there's other borders, right? And so, like, there's, Ukraine is kind of in the southern kind of belly of Russia. There's other stuff up near the shoulder, if you want, to be, metaphoric. And even if there's talk now, even if Russia doesn't win here, if it stays stalemated here, Putin might try to distract the public by attacking Lithuania or Estonia.
Yeah.
Or Latvia, and so or Poland, for that matter. So I mean, it's very hard to be in his mind for one of at all.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be like full scale attack with tanks. I don't think many people expect that. But I think it could be like serious drone trouble. And the point is that, like, NATO, and here's again, we're coming back to Trump, right? And the mess Trump makes. NATO is supposed to, when Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia get attacked, NATO is supposed to come defend them, like right away, like that day, so that nothing happens. Well, Trump has put in question whether the U.S. would do that.
Yeah.
And so these little countries are there, and Russia is, the bear is, growling at them from across the border, and America's saying, well, I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll honor Article 5, maybe not. And increasingly Europeans doubt that it will. And so that is basically, in some way, kind of an invitation to Putin to, come make trouble while he can, before there's a Democratic president or before NATO gets itself together again.
Right. Good point. Oh, wow. So all the way from Chicago, we so greatly appreciate your work. And how can folks find you as we wrap up real quick?
A lot of my pieces appear in the Washington Monthly, and so on that website. And I work for the Progressive. My center is run by run it for the Progressive Policy Institute. So it's at ppionline.org.
There you go. Tamar Jacoby, director of the New Ukraine Project, has been so kind as to hang out with us this morning. We really appreciate you taking some time, and always good to see you. We'll do this again soon, okay?
It's my pleasure, my opportunity. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you.
All right, be well. And please stay safe.
Richard.
All right, bye-bye,
Thank
Tamar.
you very much.
All right, bye-bye. Guys, take a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT Chicago. And, of course, our friends down in North Carolina at 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. And our other friends up in Minnesota, AM 950, the progressive voice in Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Spina bifida is a common birth defect, and everyone with spina bifida, from childhood through adulthood, deserves to flourish. The Spina Bifida Association is creating a future where this is more than just possible. It's inevitable. We're advancing clinical care and shaping innovative research. With your help, we'll build the future that people with spina bifida deserve. Join us at SBAA.org. That's SBAA.org. This message is sponsored by the Spina Bifida Association of America.
For the longest time, it was hard for me to even get out of the house, much less do a backside 180. That's when I made the call. With my doctor's help, I was diagnosed with anxiety. Now I'm finding better ways to cope. Sure, some days are better than others, but the whole thing about getting out of the house, that's not really an issue anymore. Mental health care works when you make the call.
See what it can do for you at mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
Amazon Business. Unlock smart business buying with fast, free delivery on millions of items and practical AI innovations that automate repetitive tasks. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the southwest of 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. Then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 68. Friday, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Partial sunshine develops, high of 84. Saturday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 85. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 66.
People don't realize that glaucoma is one of the leading causes of blindness.
Because there are often no early symptoms, nearly half of those with glaucoma may not even know they have it until vision loss has occurred.
I was diagnosed with normal tension glaucoma in July of 2020. And what we found out at that point was I had already lost 40% of my sight. And you think it only affects people that are, 75 or older, retired, grandparents, and that's not the reality of it.
I didn't think at all glaucoma was going to affect me because I didn't know of anyone that had glaucoma, no one in my family. When you have glaucoma, you can't get back that sight that you lost. And so early detection and treatment is vitally, vitally important.
Don't miss life's most beautiful moments. Schedule an eye exam today.
National Glaucoma Research, a bright, focused foundation program, offers free resources and tips for healthy vision.
Learn how to protect your sight at stopglaucoma.org.
Latinos have been here always, before, during, and after the founding of the United States. We are small business owners, teachers, farm workers, doctors, and engineers, families raising the next generation. Latinos contribute over $4 trillion to America's GDP. We are an indelible part of the American story. We are America. America is us. Learn more by going to americasus.org and discover how Latinos have shaped America's past and are forging its future.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
No fake news here. It's Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks to Tamar, Jacoby, all the way from Ukraine, for hanging out with us this morning from Kiev. So send her your thoughts of safety, and she's right there on the ground every single day. And you heard what she said about, bombs and missiles flying overhead. Today on Live, local and progressive Joan Esposito will be talking to Jen Goldbach, professor, computer scientist, and psychologist, expert in the far-right online extremism. Bill Scheer, politics editor of the Washington Monthly, and Heartland Signals, Rich Eberwine, with 3 stories you might have missed in our digital newsroom. Live, local, and progressive weekdays, 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com. And tune in tonight on Driving It Home. Patty Vasquez will be joined by former Illinois State Senator Dan Katowski and Melissa McMahon of Woodstock Pride. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays, 5 to 7 here on WCPT, the Heartland Signal website. Tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow, my guests include Nikita Patel, Executive Director and CEO of the Online News Association, Karen Byrne, co-host of True Blue Politics podcast, and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson with the June edition of This Month with the Mayor. He'll be in studio with me, so looking forward to chatting with our folks. And right now, we've got one of our other great leaders and voices that has really just been doing what she does. She's an attorney, as you all well know, but she's part of the team that I like to call the Big Sisterhood. They call themselves sisters-in-law, but I like to call them the Big Sisterhood because when they speak, whether it be on their podcast, whether it be on our shows here, they have a message that we all need to be paying attention to. You've heard the names. Jill Wine-Banks is one of them. She's one of the voices here you hear on WCPT every now and again. Kimberly Atkins-Shore, and of course Joyce Vance. But who am I talking about? None other than Barb McQuade. Good morning, Professor, Doctor, attorney, activist, author, podcaster. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Richard, but please just call me Barb.
All right, I got you. Wow, you can't stop writing, it seems. You've got this great late book that's just out. We talked about it a few weeks ago when we had you on. Let's dive right in and talk about your latest book, The Fix.
Yeah, there's so much to write about these days, unfortunately, in the news. So I wrote this book. It's out this week, and I'm going to be talking about it at the Union League Club on Monday there in Chicago.
Yep.
It is called The Fix, Saving America from the Corruption of a Mob-Style Government. And I use my experience as a federal prosecutor to kind of call out and name what we are seeing in our government today, and that is mob-style tactics. The president engages in some of the same tactics I saw as a prosecutor. So the fix suggests that, the fix is in. He inflicts pain on his rivals, other sources of power, to coerce them to come to the table to negotiate their own punishment. And we've seen it with so many different entities. We've seen it with law firms, with universities, with the media. In my hometown of Detroit, we even saw it with the Gordie Howe Bridge to Canada, demanding a donation to the MAGA PAC and threatening to withhold the opening of the bridge. And so that's part of the fix. But the other part of the fix is the solutions. What do you do about it? And I try to draw on my experience there as well to talk about how, collective action is what can defeat mafia tactics. The goal is to isolate and silence. And if we band together, that is the way to defeat organized crime.
Yeah, I want to read something. This book is about power, how it's acquired, how it is abused, and how we, the people, can take it back. At the founding of our country, the framers of our Constitution sought to share power among 3 co-equal branches of government to prevent any one person or faction from accumulating too much. And we are definitely in and that really struck me because we are in a time right now where too much has been consolidated in terms of power, not just political power, but corporate and business power. And at the same time, we recognize that however we view the founders and what they did or did not do in a particular way, the objective was for the people to have a government with, as you say, co-equal branches. And right now, if there's anything that's truly obvious, we don't have that with our federal government. And that's bleeding into some of our state governments, if you look at it. And you know this because of your work in the state of Michigan. How are you, when you look at that and trying to navigate or wanting to help people with solutions to navigate through that lack of co-equal partnership, what are some of the tools that you're trying to help people regain and re-implement?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I think one of the branches of government that has just been asleep at the switch for the past year, at least, is Congress. The idea of having these three co-equal branches of government is that Congress would be a vigorous check on an executive that might overreach. And instead, we've had a Congress kind of sit idly by as the president took over their tariff power, their power of the purse by defunding programs they had approved, even declaring war. It's supposed to be Congress who does that, and the president has gone off and done that on his own. So I think there are things we can do to elect better people in Congress. And I think that begins with the way we elect our representatives. One of the things that is really going off the rails at the moment is gerrymandering. Republicans have done it in a number of states, even though we are not in a decennial census year, just because they had the power to do it. So they wanted to take some seats that they could. And then we see Democrats reacting, feeling like if we don't do something about it, we are going to be the losers in this political battle. And so we've seen a couple states try to do that, although with the approval of voters. But I think gerrymandering by anybody is putting a thumb on the scale for one party over another. Many states, including my home state of Michigan, have created independent citizens councils that decide redistricting. And when they do it, they actually do it fairly. They do it contiguously. They respect county and city lines. They keep communities of interest together. So one of the things we just saw, Richard, in Tennessee was the cracking of Memphis, which used to be one cohesive voting block. They've split that now into three districts, one-third each of Memphis with surrounding suburbs. And, what does that do to the voters who are in Memphis, largely African-American voters? It dilutes their vote. And already their elected member of Congress, Stephen Cohen, has said he's not going to run again because he doesn't have a district anymore. So that's just bad for democracy. And so I think that if we could have more of these citizens' independent commissions that created districts, we might see better representation of all the people in Congress. The other thing I really like is ranked choice voting. I think right now we've got so many congressional seats that are not really in play, and there's a battle of who can be the most extreme. Anytime one of the Republican members of Congress has checked Donald Trump, he has funded a primary to find someone more extreme to go after them, to knock them out. He just did it with Thomas Massey, whose spin was to support the release of the Epstein files. So with ranked choice voting, you can sometimes solve that problem by avoiding a multi-candidate race where one extremist is able to split the difference and win through a plurality of votes. So I think there's some structural things we can do to take back our power.
What do you think, to that end, about ranked choice voting? Let's look at what just took place in California in the governor's race. I mean, a lot of us were on high alert that we could mess around and have two Republicans be at the top of the the ticket, so to speak, after the primary. But it seems as though folks got their act together, if you will, to blunt that and make sure that we had at least one Democrat in this fight as we get to the general. And I say we because California impacts so much of us politically. What are your thoughts about how things have gone down and how things may turn out in California?
Yeah, that's an important state. It's a big state. It affects the lives of so many, especially because so many tech companies are based there. So in many ways, what happens in California affects all of us because of the laws relating to some of these tech firms. Well, I think that ranked choice voting should be something that's done within the primary process and the general process. But you've got some of these places that have just, top two vote getters face off. We have that in Detroit, for example, where there's never a Republican who's a candidate. And so it's always the top two Democrats who go. I think we could enhance choices by making sure we've got party representation on the ticket so people always have a choice between at least two parties. And in fact, if you do your work right, maybe we end up with additional parties that actually represent the interests of the people. We have single parties trying to represent now a lot of disparate views. I think life might be a little better if we had more than just two choices, because sometimes neither party really seems to be fulfilling the wishes of all members of the electorate.
So, and that's a great point. I want to hit this real quick before we go to a break, Barb. Why do you think that is? I mean, I guess what you just said about the maybe additional parties or a view in that direction would be beneficial, because the two-party system may not be touching all the needs and concerns of so many people in the constituency. Why do you think we've kind of not moved in that direction, but why are we there?
I have three reasons for you, Richard. They are money, money, and money. I think it's because...
Which one is most important, though? I mean, of the three.
Yeah, probably money.
Okay.
Our Supreme Court in Citizens United gave corporations and other donors the ability to make unlimited expenditures on elections. And I think we are paying the price for that now. I think both parties are infected by big money. Candidates chase donors because that's how the system works. For the rest of us who might give modest, if any, contributions, but we have our vote, we're less interesting to them. They don't have to spend as much time talking to us. And so what you see is respecting corporate sacred cows, making deals for Wall Street, protecting tax structures that favor the wealthy. And I think that getting money out of politics is the only way to restore true equality to our democracy.
Yeah, let's take a quick break, Barb. The number is 773-763-9278. You are listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu talking with Barbara McQuade, and we will be right back.
That's the sound of the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, saving you money and energy. With rebates on Energy Star appliances, so you can come back to a home full of savings. Discover more ways to save at ComEd.com/home savings. ComEd, powering lives.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team. Build it sooner. ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Spina bifida is a common birth defect, and everyone with spina bifida from childhood through adulthood deserves to flourish. The Spina Bifida Association is creating a future where this is more than just possible. It's inevitable. We're advancing clinical care and shaping innovative research. With your help, we'll build the future that people with spina bifida deserve. Join us at SBAA.org. That's SBAA.org. This message is sponsored by the Spina Bifida Association of America.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
We may be waking up, but we're still engaged. It's Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Choose Views, and I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Barbara McQuade. Barbara, going back to the book for a second in terms of some of the larger context of conversation, the book is in 3 parts. The first part is a playbook of power, the new authoritarianism. The second is capturing centers of power, and the third is how we take it back. So in the first section, one of the chapters, disinformation warfare. I think about this in the context of what just happened to Scott Pelley at CBS and the desire for this presidency, this administration, to control the narrative, to control the conversation. Lean into this as you do to talk about how this is affecting us in such a way that we don't know not which way is up, but the disinformation warfare is real.
Absolutely. So, the president is fond of saying things that are just not at all true. That the Biden Justice Department weaponized the law against him and his allies. And how do we know that? Because they were charged with crimes for their conduct on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol, which we saw with our own eyes was a day of violence and not a day of love. And the effort to control the media is not surprising when you think about other moments in history. So often it was the media that exposed corruption and wrongdoing in our government and led to change. I think about the Gilded Age, where we had muckraking journalists who exposed tenement housing and squalor and putrid conditions in meatpacking factories and all of these things that led to child labor laws, antitrust laws, food and drug safety laws, conservation laws for our national parks and lands. Another moment in history where the media, I think, played an important role was the civil rights movement, when we had, fire hoses on protesters, peaceful protesters in Birmingham, Alabama, and on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma. Those images beamed to everyone around the country, caused shock and horror, and helped galvanize a movement that led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. And so if you are a corrupt person trying to maximize power, you need to silence the media. You need to get them to go along with the program and provide only favorable treatment. And I think that's why we've seen so many of these instances. I mean, think about some of the frivolous lawsuits that Donald Trump has filed, and so many of these media outlets have just rolled over. CBS and 60 Minutes, as you point out. Early on, there was that lawsuit that President Trump brought because they edited the transcript with Kamala Harris. Tell me a media organization that doesn't edit part of their interview. It's the show's called 60 Minutes. We don't have
600 minutes.
We don't have more than we don't have more than that. We're going to edit it, and it was just bizarre. And they showed one part of her interview during the show and another part of her interview during the news program, and they said, "Aha, you didn't show the whole thing accurately." Well, no, I don't think they ever claimed to, but they said that was some sort of consumer fraud. And rather than fight a battle, they would absolutely have won.
Yeah.
CBS and 60 Minutes said, "Oh, we're sorry. Here's some money." And I think that signaled to other media giants that, this game is going to be played a little differently in this administration. And if you want to continue to be able to operate where President Trump's FCC director controls your broadcast license, and if you want to have lucrative deals where there's consolidation and mergers in the media industry and the federal government has to approve those things, maybe you decide to go along to get along. And that's incredibly dangerous when we think about the importance of the free press. It's contained in our First Amendment and enshrined there for a reason, because as the founding fathers said, we're to give it a choice between a free government and the free press. I should not hesitate to choose the latter.
Yeah. Barb, that's such a great way to lay that out. And I think about it in terms of standing up to the bully. And so many of the critics and you have a chapter in the book, Silencing the Critics, that talks about, there are people who are speaking up. I mean, Thomas Massey is a good example, and he got politically cut off at the knees, but he did the right thing with his vote yesterday as it relates to the War Powers Resolution, and more of that has to happen to kind of make sure that people have some confidence. And this is he's a Republican. He's a Republican that didn't vote maybe the way that I would have wanted him to on a lot of things where he voted with Trump. But in this case, it's the right thing for the people. It's the right thing for the country to get us in a position where they do their job. The Republicans in Congress, not all, they do their job, which is to hold this president accountable. Going back to and so that's one of those guardrails. Talk a little bit about why our guardrails are so important and what they prevented us from falling into in the past.
Yeah, so obviously when the founding fathers were drafting the Constitution, they were fresh off a revolution, and they saw the harms of a monarch who wasn't checked, right? Taxation without representation. He can do quarter-inch soldiers. Hey, these guys are staying at your house tonight. No thanks. And so they thought it was really important that, an individual might be inclined toward tyranny. And so you needed some sort of check there. And so by controlling the power of the purse, the power to confirm appointees, the power to declare war, the power to collect and levy taxes, the power to regulate interstate commerce, all of those things were designed to serve as a check on a president who might be inclined to overreach. And, in this administration, it's been very difficult. Lately I've been seeing some hints of hope. Congress did pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act, although, as you mentioned, Thomas Menefee lost his job over it. But why would you even want the job if you're not going to do it effectively?
Yep.
Liz Cheney lost her position because she presided over those hearings about the attacks on the U.S. Capitol. It was absolutely the right thing to do. And she said some very important words there. I won't get her quote just right. It was beautifully said, but she said something like, history will always remember what happened here on that day. And your shame, those Republicans who refuse to acknowledge it, that history will endure as well. And so I think that they will go down in infamy as people who enabled a tyrant in a time when we needed them to stand up for the people.
Yeah. And, to that end, it's always been people who've had the ability to have some clarity in a moment. And sometimes we can be harsh on them for the things that they've done. Liz Cheney did not vote in a way that I thought was right for the constituents that she served and the country at large. Massey, I put him in the same box. But of course, in the moment when they do the thing that has to be done, we want to see more of them do that, because we know that how is it that they suddenly figured out, this is the right thing to do? It tells you that they all know what the right thing is, Barb, but they just got to be moved to do it. So one of your other chapters, I guess it's the closing chapter of the book, Civic Awakening. The word woke, being plugged in as a phrase, all these things are so important. What do you want to see? And you have such a unique way, and one of your superpowers is the ability to kind of take highly complicated stuff from a legal perspective and break it down into bite-sized pieces for people to be able to better understand. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about listening to you and things that you've written. But how do we get folks to recapture their civic awakenings, as your chapter speaks to?
Yes, and this is such an important point, I think, Richard. Thank you for highlighting it. I think sometimes we're waiting for someone to save us. We want Congress to save us. We want the courts to save us. And there are some things they can do, and they have protected us from some of Trump's worst instincts. But there's so much we can do. Our government is one of the people, and the people in Congress are just the people we put there. And so we have the power to get involved and do things. If you want to go out and knock on doors and volunteer on campaigns, that's easy to do. If you want to be part of a collective group like the League of Women Voters, Indivisible chapters, NAACP does great work when it comes to organized efforts to effect political change. But you don't even have to wait for that. There's a researcher named Erica Chenoweth. She's a political scientist at Harvard who has studied regime change in hundreds of countries around the world. And she has said a peaceful protest is incredibly effective. If only 3.5% of the public participates in peaceful protests, they can effect regime change. And so, next time there's a No Kings protest, think about getting out there. Sometimes people say, well, that's just preaching to the choir. Well, sometimes maybe the choir needs to hear the sermon too, right? It's energizing to see that there are other people who see what you see and think this is not right. But the other value of peaceful protest is even the people who aren't out there, they see those images. They see them on television and in the newspaper and social media, and they realize, hey, there's a movement here. And people like to be part of movements, and at some point it reaches a tipping point when we're ready for change. We just saw it in Hungary with the defeat of Viktor Orban, and I think that hunger is there in the United States. We just need to push it over the edge. And so, there's that old phrase, I think it was Martin Luther King who said, and Barack Obama who loved to quote it, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. But of course, it doesn't bend on its own. We have to be there to help tip it over.
We have to be like the wonderful picture of the soldiers at Iwo Jima holding up that flag, and in that process, we're pushing that arc. Barbara McQuade, it is such a joy to talk to you. I love your work, and I'm an avid follower of what you do because you keep our brains kind of functioning in this space. How can folks find you? I know the book is about to go through the roof, which I'm excited about, and one of the advocates of the great work that you do. How can folks follow you?
Thanks. Well, the book is available anywhere you get your books. It's called The Fix, Saving America from the Corruption of a Mob-Style Government. And I'm going to be in Chicago on Monday at the Union League Club at noon for a lunch talk, along with my sister-in-law, Jill Wine-Banks. And I think I'm going to see you there, Richard. I'm looking forward to that in person. And if you want tickets to the event, you can go to BarbaraMcQuade.com, and there's a whole list of all of the public events that I'm doing.
Absolutely. Barb, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Look forward to seeing you next Monday. Be safe in your travels, and we will talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks so much, Richard. You
All
too.
right. Talk to you. Bye-bye. Quick break, guys. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. When we come back, one of our congressional leaders that's getting it done will be hanging out with us, Christian Menefee from the great state of Texas. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. Hey, progressives, it's Richard Chu, host of Choose Views weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. Central. We're all anxious for the 2026 midterm election to arrive so we can restore some sanity and much-needed oversight to our government. In fact, it's the most important midterm election in American history, and Choose Views will be in the thick of it, bringing you candidate interviews on a regular basis. I'll be talking to Democratic Party hopefuls running for House and Senate at the federal and state level, as well as candidates for governor and other state and local offices.
I am in love with our ability to fight for our rights, to fight for our future, to fight for our freedoms, to fight as our ancestors fought. It's just our moment. This is just our time to stand up and to speak up. We can't give up on this.
If you miss any of the interviews live, you'll be able to find them all on WCPT's candidate interviews page at heartlandsignal.com/candidates. That's Choose Views weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years.
More than 4 million adults in the United States have glaucoma.
People don't realize that glaucoma is one of the leading causes of blindness.
Nearly half of those with glaucoma don't even know that they have it until vision loss has occurred.
Don't miss life's most beautiful moments.
Schedule a comprehensive eye exam to protect your sight.
National Glaucoma Research, a Bright Focus Foundation program, offers free resources and tips for healthy vision.
Learn how to protect your sight at stopglaucoma.org.
When I first had Jordan, I'd get comments all the time about how happy I must be. I remember thinking, there must be something wrong with me because I don't feel all this joy I'm supposed to be feeling. That's when I made the call. My doctor told me I have postpartum depression, and treatment is available. These days, things are feeling right, even if they don't always go that way. Mental health care works when you make the call.
See what it can do for you at mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT Willow Springs, is powered by ComEd. Find rebates and discounts on energy-efficient products at ComEd.com/home savings.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the southwest at 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. And for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 68. Friday, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Partial sunshine develops, high of 84. Saturday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 85. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 66.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Choose Views, and I am Richard Chu. Shout out to Nancy. Great text regarding our conversation with Tamar, Jacoby, and to Cindy in Michigan. Thank you for your comments regarding what's happening with this administration and real journalism. Diane as well, thanks to you. She's already boycotting CBS. So, yeah, good work, guys. Glad you guys are plugged in. We have with us this morning one of our strong representatives that recently assumed office back in February of this year down in Texas, and has been fighting hard in the state to keep Texas from crumbling in on itself. Representing Texas's 18th congressional district with us this morning is Congressman Christian Menefee. Good morning, Congressman, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I've been waiting for this for a long time because I was so happy when you were able to assume that office back in February. And you have done some great work in a short period of time, and I'm just really happy to see that you are moving the ball forward, as the phrase goes, to make sure that we stay strong in the state of Texas, given all the hell that has come your way from the dude that sits on Pennsylvania Avenue. Talk to us about Congressman Christian Menefee.
You know, it has been a long and bumpy road. I ran in 4 races in 7 months, and my district went about 15, just under a year. Without having representation. I campaigned in total for 15 months. That was because of a scheme that was devised by the president and the governor to redistrict in the middle of a decade and to delay filling the vacancy. But we're here now, and the job is to get stuff done, to do all I can to make my district one of the best places to live and raise a family, but also to rein the Trump administration in. This is an administration and a president that has no problem starting wars that nobody asked for, that has no problem issuing tariffs that make life more expensive for the average Joe and Jane. And you know how it is with bullies. You have to stand up to them early and often in order to protect your community. So that's what we're doing here in Congress, and I'm looking forward to the work.
Got to punch him in the face, proverbially. But I know what you mean, and that's what has to happen. It somewhat is playground or sandbox mentality. You know, you gotta be willing to fight, not just for yours. My father made this clear to me early on, Representative. He said, you fight for yourself, but you fight for other people first. Because if you fight for other people first, when you have to fight for yourself, there'll be somebody there to fight with you. And that stayed with me long time. It stayed with me. And that's what you guys in Texas have been forced on a state level. I mean, back last summer when the state legislature had to, fight this quorum issue, many of them came to Illinois, and we were glad to have them and welcome, because we wanted to make sure that they knew that we were going to be there to fight with them when they were being, attacked by 2 bullies, your governor and the dude that sits in the White House. I don't even like to call him president, because I'm just not going to give him that respect. So that's me. But I appreciate how you've been fighting and doing what you've got to do to take care of the people there in Texas. I'm going to ask you a question that it's been on my mind. This redistricting thing really put, essentially it put 2 brothers against each other. And it is what it is, and you were able to prevail. But what didn't happen is the people in the state of Texas, the districts that's been eliminated, now has to fight even harder to maintain their voice and have a voice in Congress or have a voice in the country. How did that impact you? I know you came out on the other side of it well, but I know that there's had to be some parts of this where you just, I don't want to put words in your mouth. How did that impact you?
It was brutal. Al Green, who I was ultimately pitted against, is an icon and someone who is deeply respected by our communities. And even coming out of the election, he was still overwhelmingly popular with folks in the district. So this was not in any way a repudiation of Congressman Al Green. Instead, what people said was, we think both of you are fighters, and we're just going to go with the option that will possibly lead us into the future. But this was by design with President Trump and with Governor Abbott to try to pit minority communities against each other, make us fight for scraps. I took a negotiation course in law school, and the best thing I learned from it was good negotiators get more slices of the pizza than the other side, but great negotiators grow the pizza so that potentially everybody can win. But what Republicans are having us do is fight for scraps, right? That side got a slice, therefore I won't get a slice. We have to go at each other's necks. And I wanted to be clear throughout this campaign who the opposition was. The opposition was never Congressman Al Green. It was always Donald Trump and Greg Abbott, the people who pit us against each other, the people who are stripping minority communities of their ability to elect the candidate of their choosing and using devious and shameful tactics in order to do so. And, you said it, not me, about punching them in the mouth, figuratively. But I've said throughout the campaign that, look, Democrats got to get ready to kick some teeth in. And that's the kind of Democrat that I have been as county attorney. That's the kind of Democrat that I'm going to continue to be serving in the House of Representatives. We're not backing down. We're not dancing unless we hear music. And we're not going to be intimidated by a president who has made an entire career off of being born into privilege and then bullying everybody from that point on.
And not only that, Congress, and thank you for that, because there's so many things that I want to go back to, but let me start with this one regarding Congressman Al Green. And I have to ask you this question because he's a senior member of Congress, was a senior member of Congress, legendary, all those words that we can attach to him and his success. But I'm hoping, and you don't have to share all these details, but I'm hoping that he pulled you aside and respectfully said, young fella, here's how you navigate some of this garbage. Not that you don't know how to do it already. Don't get me wrong, because of your career success prior to. But I'm hoping that, because I've said for a long time, Congressman, that one of the responsibilities of those of us who might be a little older than some of the younger folks who are coming into politics, but we're still active, is that we have a responsibility to you to say, here's what I've learned. Here's what I think is workable or useful. Do with it what you please or choose to, but here's some things that I think are some nuggets that are going to help you on those days when you're sitting there in your office going, what the blank is wrong with these people? Have you and former Representative Green had that kind of a conversation or interaction?
We have not, but I'm certainly open to it, and I look forward to it. When you have two fighters, two bulldogs who are in the pit together, emotions run high. There's a lot of tension. I think that over time is going to die down, and the focus is just going to be on serving the people. So we have not had that conversation yet, but I anticipate it will happen. And I am old enough to know that I know a few things, and young enough to know that I have no clue what I'm doing. So I would welcome any guidance from the congressman.
Yeah, that's a great phrase, and I'm hoping more and more people can tie into that. We all are in that space, no matter what age we are. We realize that we don't know what we're doing, and we're trying to make sure that we make the right decisions and go forward. And speaking to that end, when you were talking earlier about Trump and his inheritance, one of the things that is a misguided conversation by so many people, Congressman, is this. People think that Donald Trump was a great businessman. And he was not, is not, never has been. He inherited a ton of money and basically squandered it and then started to go down a path of trying to make it look like he was doing all these great deals when, in fact, he borrowed his way to fame and to wealth to the point where now he's beholden to many, many entities. It's happened all over again. When he came into office with the 2016 win, if you will, people think that he was just this master of the universe when it came to the economy. He inherited a great economy from Barack Obama or from that administration. Same thing happens all over again. And so he doesn't know what he's doing. His miscues are costing people's lives. It's costing people's livelihoods. And he's just off the rails. So as a congressman, if we take back the House, and everybody's asking that question or making that statement, what are some of the things that you sit back and say, these are things we have to do immediately to rein in this person that doesn't know what they're doing, yet alone being potentially criminal and all the rest?
We have to be ready to flex the full muscle of the committees in the House. If you look, Democrats have already started doing that. You've had administration officials who, under the minority, when Democrats are in the minority, these Trump officials have come before the Oversight Committee, they've come before the Judiciary Committee, and they have gotten their teeth kicked in. Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, and these folks were grilled so bad, Democrats were so prepared and grilled them so bad that these officials were effectively forced out of the administration. And that's when we were in the minority. Imagine what we can do in the majority. So, we will hopefully have a chair of the House Oversight Committee and Congressman Robert Garcia. We will hopefully have a chair of the Judiciary Committee and Congressman Jamie Raskin. And the folks who are on these committees and other committees that have jurisdiction to jam these folks up, you got to do your homework, you got to be prepared, and we have to let the dogs out of the cage. I will tell you, any committee that I'm on, if you're a Trump administration official and you're coming before me, you better have your stuff together. And I think that we can expose a ton of corruption from the administration and from the president specifically. We know about how he's lining the pockets of his family, how he's setting up scams and crypto deals to make his family hundreds of millions of dollars. We have to be prepared to expose it, and I think what you've seen from us in the minority is we have no fear on this topic, and there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. And so Democrats are going to get the job done. I look forward to pursuing on that. And then once we investigate and the facts come out, look, if the evidence shows what we think it'll show, then it'll be impeachment time.
Well, and I think another thing, yes, to all that you just said, and thank you for saying it that way, because I know, I can tell you from listeners all over the country, that's what they want. They want Democrats to walk in and knock, and these are my phrases, knock over some tables. And I've said that the Democrats that run right now or that are in office that say words like partly what you just said, some people, if what they did is wrong, they're going to jail, no questions asked. There are millions of Americans that want to see that. Amy McGrath, who's running for Senate in Kentucky, has said affordability and accountability, and it seems like you're on a similar track in your thinking right now.
100%. Part of our job is to put more money back in the American people's pockets, because there used to be a time in this country where you could work 40 hours a week, get the house, the 2 cars, send your kids off to do better than you did, and retire at a reasonable age with dignity. But we know that's just not the America that so many people live in today. So we're going to be adamant about trying to bring down costs, about putting more money back in people's pockets, and that is a worthy and noble cause, and we're going to stick at it. But we also have to make sure we're holding the Trump administration accountable. You can't just trample on civil rights. You can't just enrich your family. You can't just use the presidency as if you are a king in ways that are clearly unconstitutional and illegal, and think that we're just going to back down and take it. And that is what I've heard the most from the base, is they're tired of the strongly worded letters. They're tired of the all caps tweets. They want folks who are going to come in and find creative ways to hold this administration accountable. And I, as a new member, I was not here for the strongly worded letters. I wasn't here for going on Twitter and putting up a video and thinking you did something. So I'm here to get stuff done, and that means calling these folks to the carpet and holding them accountable. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break, Congressman. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM, Warren County, North Carolina, as well as our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Texas Congressman Christian Menefee, and we will be right back.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
Nathan has taught me to embrace the moment. Age-wise, I'm in my late 60s. I'm old enough to be his grandfather. Will he be embarrassed to acknowledge me as his dad? I think the most important thing we can do is let them know that they're safe, that they're valued and cared for and loved, and that they're important.
I knew I wanted to be adopted by him because of how he taught me to be the person who I am today. And it's coming from a dad that didn't expect to become a dad. And I feel very proud to be his son.
I was what he needed, and he was what I needed. Every day is full of new opportunities. That's what it's been about, realizing the simple things that it takes to make such a huge difference in these kids' lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by Adopt U.S. Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song. You can't imagine life without them. Cancer screening tests can help keep the person you love around longer by detecting changes before cancer develops, or catch it early when it may be easier to treat. And many tests are available for free or covered by insurance. It's time to sound like a broken record. Tell all your friends and family, I love you. Get screened. Visit cancer.org/getscreened to learn.
I never considered myself to be a heavy drinker. At first, I only drank with friends, then to get through the day. I hit rock bottom when I realized I was choosing alcohol over my family. That's when I made the call. With my doctor's help, I was diagnosed with alcohol use disorder. Now, I'm getting to the root of my addiction and finding better ways to cope.
Mental health care works when you make the call. Visit mentalhealthcareworks.org. A message from the American Psychiatric Association Foundation.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
debunking the lies your uncle saw on Facebook. It's Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Choose Views, and I'm Richard Chew. We're talking with Texas congressional leader Christian Menefee, who's with us this morning. Representative, thank you for being with us, and I appreciate the energy that you're bringing to this conversation right now. And this is what everything from the people that I've talked with all over the country are saying. They want this kind of unapologetic Democratic leadership, whether it be on a state legislative level or on a federal level. I'm seeing it. I saw it with the members of your state legislature who were here last summer. They were fighting for the people of Texas, and you are on a federal level doing the same thing. I'm glad to hear you say that there are going to be people held accountable, not just Donald Trump. And I think that sometimes we can get so isolated in our focus on him that we forget that there are people in the administration that are keeping him propped up. And there are some of your members of Congress, I won't call them your colleagues, they're members of Congress that are Republicans that are doing the same thing. So how are you prepared, and I know that you are, to navigate those waters when I believe we're going to be in power in the House? What are you sort of cooking up right now that says, I'm going to be one of the people that is fully forwarded in holding not just the administration, but maybe some of my congressional members as well to account?
Well, as soon as I got into the United States Congress, I immediately joined the Democratic Litigation Task Force. This is the group that gets involved in lawsuits across the country to hold the administration accountable. I was able to get on so fast because when I was county attorney, this is what I did. You know, everybody talks about fighting now because it's 2026, but I was running for Harris County attorney in 2019 talking about fighting Republicans. When members of my party were telling me, yo, you got to slow it down, young whippersnapper. And as the county attorney, I took the Texas Governor Greg Abbott to court, the Attorney General of Texas to court, even President Trump himself, and beat them to protect health care programs, to make sure we have clean air and clean water, to defend our voting rights. So I've been on this kind of groove for a very long time. So I get to Congress, they put me on the task force immediately. I'm currently looking into trying to get on one of the committees that has this investigative oversight authority into the administration. And when it comes to holding members of Congress accountable, I made clear when I first was running for office that I do not plan to trade stocks in office. I've already signed on the bills that would ban congressional stock trading. And I've already divested of all my stock. Look, if the American people are going to take you seriously as a group that is holding the president accountable, you need to be above the fray as well. And so I'm trying to lead by example in that sense. But there's a lot of folks in this administration who are letting the president force them into violating laws because they want the glitz and glamour of serving in a presidential administration. But we're not going to let any of these folks off the hook. You're not going to misuse taxpayer funds, violate laws, harass your staff, and think that when Democrats get back in power, we're just going to go along to get along. That's certainly not the Democratic Party that I plan to be a part of. I plan to be a part of a caucus that is active in throwing punches and landing punches and in making sure that this administration has to speak for the crimes that they've committed and facilitated during their time in office.
Yeah, and you started off in your answer. You started off by talking about making sure that things that are, you didn't use those words, but the kitchen table items, the everyday items for so many Americans. What I'm seeing in that space is this, Congressman. Those kitchen table items have oftentimes sort of been a label for people that might be of middle or lower income status. But what's happened during this administration, this short period of time, is that's going up the income levels. There are more people who make more money than the median number that are impacted by the tariffs and how that's trickled down in a negative way to consumers, and the healthcare debacle with Medicare and Medicaid, and this big ugly bill. So you seem to have a handle, or at least an understanding, that it's not just the people that are at or below the median income, it's people that are above that as well. I mean, am I right or wrong there?
You're exactly right. This country and its governance has been focused the last several decades on trying to make it easier for the wealthy and for large corporations to do their bidding than for the average person to make a buck. Why would we have policy that makes it easier for somebody with $1 billion to get $2 billion than somebody who makes six figures to be able to provide for their family? It's insane. But if you look at the rising cost of college, if you look at how expensive it is to be able to put money down to own a home, if you look at the cost of goods, all these things have allowed a society where people in many instances are having good jobs that are paying them okay, and they're still not able to thrive in this country. They're still not able to retire at a reasonable age. Trump's policies are hitting everybody now, though. So, the tariffs are driving up the cost of necessities, of groceries. That's going to hit everybody from regular Joe Schmo who's, living a normal life in this country to small business owners who have to buy their inventory, and many of it is from some of these tariff countries. The war in Iran, which has increased household costs about $3,500 per household, and we're paying $1 billion a day to fund a war that we're not even sure what the strategic objectives are. And so I was proud that the caucus yesterday passed a war powers resolution that's going to start the process of forcing the president to end the hostilities and to come to Congress and plead his case. And breaking news, I haven't heard his case yet, but I suspect there isn't one. And so, if that does happen, I'm pretty confident I'll be voting against the war in Iran. But all of President Trump's decisions have been to make life more difficult for everybody from, the working class to folks who are just trying to survive in this country to even folks who are making okay money. And it's been in defense of the wealthiest of the wealthy. And it's in direct opposition to what he told people, what he was campaigning. But we all know the president's a liar. He's just making that clear to the American people every day.
Yeah, and four of the Republican members of Congress, Massey, Davison, Fitzpatrick, and Barrett, for lack of, they crossed the aisle, or they got their minds right and said this is the right thing to do. And it made sense because we shouldn't be here. We get all that. I want to ask you this question. Do you see that there may be more members of the Republican side of this conversation, both in the House and the Senate on a federal level, that are going to start to get their, what's back, to get their guts back, if you will, and vote more in alignment with not just the Democrats per se, but in alignment with makes sense for the country? Or am I dreaming?
I think that you're seeing Republicans catch religion all of a sudden once they get disrespected by the president. Once the president seeks to oust them, like he did with the senator from Louisiana and with some other folks, at that point, then they get righteous and they decide they want to do the right thing. There are some people who have been doing the right thing from jump, like Congressman Massey, but that tends to be the exception, not the rule. But look, I've never in a time in American history seen an individual have such singular control over a political party. I think the closest maybe you could compare would be FDR, but there were plenty of Democrats who were not New Deal Democrats who had no problem standing up to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. But on the Republican side, you have one man who requires loyalty out of the people who are in his party, and he has singular control over that party. And so what you've seen is people who said that they were against war are now all of a sudden foreign policy experts and explaining to us why we have to bomb schools in Iran. People who said that this had become a society that only benefits the billionaires, all of a sudden supporting tax breaks for the wealthiest of the wealthiest of the wealthy. These folks need to find religion. They need to find it quick. But unfortunately, I think their only religion is to bow at the throne of Donald Trump.
Yeah, and it's definitely hurting the country in ways that sometimes are even unseen. It was interesting how, yesterday during testimony, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, got caught in we'll call it a lie. We certainly got caught in, if it weren't a lie, he certainly didn't know what room he was in when he said that he's never seen the president fall asleep, because somebody who's sitting right next to you that's not paying attention is either not paying attention or they're asleep. So kudos to you guys for putting the weight to the folks in this administration, and we hope to see more of this. Congressman, how can folks find you? How can they follow you? How can they support the work that you're doing for the country?
Well, I appreciate you having me on. If you're interested in hearing more, to the folks who are out there listening, I'm at CD Menefee I'm at Rep CD Menefee on most social media platforms. So follow us. We're just getting going. I think I'm like 120 days in, and so there's a lot of fun to be had, but we're on the start of something great here, and we're looking forward to doing all we can to throw the punches and land the punches and restore the fighting spirit of the Democratic Party. So I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to coming back soon.
We will have you back, and I've got a sledgehammer to bring to the party as well, so trust me when it's... Congressman, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Please stay safe and stay energized. We got your back, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, bye now. To my wonderful team, Mike and Henry, this morning, thanks for making it all work with the calls and the text messages and all that stuff at Facebook. Make sure you guys go to our Facebook page and drop your comments there. Tomorrow, we're going to have a loaded up day. We've got Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics podcast with us, and, of course, Chicago's own Mayor Brendan Johnson. So we look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And remember, take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.
Some journeys start small, with small pause and big purpose.
Look how little fly, you sweet girl.
Every great partnership begins with the first step.
Bella, let's go.
Guiding them through the world so one day they can guide someone through life. With shared experience, confidence grows, and the path becomes clear. It takes time, patience, and love. But the reward lasts a lifetime.
Hey, good girl, Bella.
You don't just raise a puppy. You raise a future. Become a Dogs Inc. puppy raiser. Give a dog a purpose. Give someone hope.
Learn more at dogsinc.org.
Amazon Business. Unlock smart business buying with fast, free delivery on millions of items and practical AI innovations that automate repetitive tasks. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Skies will become mostly sunny here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the southwest of 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. Then for tonight, partly cloudy with a low near 68. Friday, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Partial sunshine develops, high of 84. Saturday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 85. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 70.
Chicago's Progressive Talk WCPT Willow Springs is powered by ComEd. Find rebates and discounts on energy-efficient products at ComEd.com/home savings.
Stephanie Miller here. I am shooting the proverbial poop with guess who? The tummy whisperer. Yep, Renee Barish of Digestive Health Solutions. Renee, there's lots of confusion about food and diet these days. What brings people to you, and how do you help them sort it out?
Great question. People come to me with a garden variety of digestive issues, including bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and heartburn. But the fun doesn't stop there. So many people bypass these symptoms and exhibit skin conditions, low energy, and poor sleep.
Okay, then what?
Well, I provide expert navigation with diet as well as sensitive testing for your digestion and microbiome. These tests provide clear data about what's happening in your body. And now with this info, I create a go-forward plan to help you feel better.
That's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Mama.
You can talk to Renee at 847-207-2034 or visit thetummywhisperer.com. That's 847-207-2034. Just ask for Renee. 847-207-2034.
Looking for a summer and fall filled with legendary music? North Shore Center in Skokie brings you the Soundtracks of a Generation, a powerhouse tribute concert series celebrating the artists artists you love. It all starts June 25th with Sons of Seeger, delivering the heartland rock of Bob Seger from night moves to old-time rock and roll. Then on July 25th, Feel the Soul with RESPECT, a dynamic tribute to the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, featuring all the hits like Respect and Natural Woman. On August 29th, Revelator brings the bluesy jam band energy of the Tedeschi Trucks Band to life with powerful vocals and electrifying guitar. September 19th, it's Petty King, celebrating Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers with classics like Free Fallin' and American Girl. And wrap up the year on December 17th with Huey and the News Tribute, a high-energy tribute to Huey Lewis and the News that'll have you singing all night. All shows start 7:30 p.m. at the North Shore Center. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss Soundtracks of a Generation, 5 unforgettable nights of music that defined the decades.
The Sports Cubicle. Economics professor at Smith College, Massachusetts, Andrew Zimbalist.
When Chicago is approached, or Illinois is approached for new public funds to build yet another stadium, it shouldn't be, hey, this is going to be an economic boon for the city. It's not going to be. It should be, how much is it worth to us culturally to keep these teams here?
The Sports Cubicle with Mike Mercado, Devin Tingle, Dan Marver, and Paul Shivari. Sunday nights, 9 p.m. on WCPT.
WCPT replay.
I mean, look, Kash Patel should no more lead the FBI than Trump's other favorite, Hannibal Lecter, should be the head chef at a restaurant. Robert Kennedy deciding what protections to eliminate in our healthcare system is like deciding whether it's better to get eaten by a shark or electrocuted when your boat sinks. Remember that? That's the deranged and dangerous world we're in now. And we need each other in this world. The time for blame is over. It doesn't help. We cannot go into this moment allowing ourselves to be isolated from other people. So look, let's please recommit to each other. Let's also commit that we will try to be grateful while we fight, as Americans always have, for a democracy and a government worthy of a great people.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter. WCPT replay.
We have our good friend Tom Hartman on the line.
There's going to be a point when Trump exercises the powers of government. You know, Barack Obama described the Constitution as a negative Bill of Rights. What the Constitution does is it constrains our government from attacking us, essentially. But the power of government is awesome. I mean, it's frightening. It's the only government has the power to literally come to your home and grab you and put you in a cage for the rest of your life, or even kill you.
Yeah.
And you know, with no consequence. And Trump now wields that power, and Trump is an angry, cruel man, and that concerns me tremendously. I've been on the receiving end of the power of government in my life, and it's something you never forget.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
I am very pleased to welcome Illinois Congressman Eric Sorensen, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, Congressman Mike Quigley represents Illinois' 5th District, Congressman Brad Schneider, Congressman Bill Foster,